Damilare Olaniyan is a digital strategist with an executive MBA in strategic leadership. He is the founder of Grizel Innovation and mentors at the Nicom SAD Startup Accelerator Program. Within Toastmasters International, he is a distinguished Toastmaster and currently leads the club's excellence committee across West Africa, District 130. Damilare has also worked on international initiatives including Yes Academy Nigeria, American Music Abroad, and the Yes Alumni Global Network, helping leaders and organizations amplify their voice and impact. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Damilare Olaniyan. He'll be talking on future ready professionals and thriving in the digital age. Mr. Damilare, you are welcome.
Oh, thank you very much for that introduction. Give me a second to just fire up my and that was a good one. I mean the last presentation, and good to hear from you. It's good to hear from you. Give me a second.
All right, ma. All
Oh,
right, sir. We are with you.
can you see me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. We can see you clearly and we can hear you.
Okay. Once we're looking at the skills that you need to master, especially in this uh, engaging. So I like to see if there's anyone on the call. And because I don't want to make it a bit theoretical, right? Even though my presentation is largely theoretical, I would like to make it as practical as possible. So let's start with that. So what skills do you think we should master really in this era, in the first century? What skills should we really master? Let's not go at it. Let's not go at it, right? I can see Olayemi Rayem on the call. Okay, I can see by the chat box. These two skills. Thinking about okay, all right. I think that was from the last presentation. Okay, the skills. So I'm sending a request to share my screen. Okay, so why that's been granted? Let me start with something. So we live in an era that's fast changing. Everything's been accelerated, and every decade there are a lot of changes that happen. We had the internet revolution. It's transformed the way we go about conducting businesses, right? Even it changed the way we go about education. That's the internet. Now we got these AI, AR, augmented reality. We've got VR, virtual reality. We've got machine learning, data, massive application of interpretation of data. So a lot of things are happening right now. And the key question right now is you as a young professional, what are you doing to catch on to the wave? So now, when I say wave, I don't know if you've seen any video of this surfing of these big waves. Because in Nigeria, in that environment, that coastal line environment, so big waves from the ocean. Now we do have some in Lagos, anyways, but not as big as it's in the US or Australia or those countries, right? So when you have the big wave, massive one, right? You exacting, right? Trying to manufacture the wave, trying to manufacture the tide is much difficult. Someone said something one time that it's better to be a bad manager in a growing business than be a great manager. To me, it means that, so for instance, right, when we go to school, we study all these courses, all these programs, which by the time you're done with the university, by the time you're done schooling, you realize that most of these programs are no longer relevant in the society and even to society. Of course, that's why many of us try to leave the country, try to relocate, move to another place, move to other or venture right into a new domain and all. It's because what you were trained to do is no longer relevant to your own society and in your own society. So they're two different things, right? So what do you do? Now, the current wave that we have right now, because someone mentioned the two skills, you have the AI, right, which is like the biggest one. Of course, the other ones too, underlying waves, right? You can also catch on. Is now you don't have to now think, okay, do I need to study chemical engineering? Do I need to go for computer science? Do I need to do that or that? No, no. There's already a big wave. Is how do you latch onto that wave? What mechanism, right, are you going to use to catch that wave? So I think I'm presenting something entirely different from what I prepared for, and I love it that way. So what mechanism are you going to use to latch onto that wave so you can take all the benefit that rise high, which right now is intelligence, has? And like I said, it's good for you to be, but it's good for you to be a terrible professional in a growing industry, because regardless of the outcome, value one way or the other, than for you to be a great professional in a declining industry. Now, if you look around you, even from the what called the feel of the market, right? What's market? Buying and selling, right? Demand and supply. From the feel of the market, you could tell that this industry is on the decline. And again, from the feel of the market, you can tell that this industry is on the rise. So if your industry is on a decline, you don't need anyone to tell you. You don't need a prophet. You don't need a professor. You don't need a futurist to tell you that you need to hop off that industry and jump onto one that is on the rise, because of one guiding principle. It's more beneficial to be a terrible professional in a rising industry, right, than to be a great professional in an industry that is declining. So how do you get the feel of the market? How do you know, oh, this industry that I'm in right now that's reached the height of marginal returns, that's hit the height of any possible gain, of any new revolution, that even high can contribute to that industry? There are many things you can look at. So that's why there's something called data analysis. Now, data analysis goes beyond uh, Excel, SPSS, or data science, Python, and all, right? So the most important things for you to the relevant sources, right? Compare that data, right, with the industry standard. Compare it with other industries. Compare it with the global expectation of economists, investors, emerging startups, amongst others. The demand of the global demands, right? Global trends. Now we have what we call we have the green revolution, right? They have the carbon saving. So compare your industry to that. So for instance, if your industry is polluting the environment, you should know that at some point it's going to decline, because now the focus of the global powers, the global elites, is that let's reduce our carbon emission. So let's say the industry you're working in, the industry you find yourself is on the rise. Good. So let's move to the next one, which is mastery. Mastery. So mastery is the progressive increment, right? Improvement, your skill sets. Now, like I said earlier, that if you become a master, right, in an industry that's on decline, then your service will be of no use. Then you complain, oh my God, I have a PhD in this. Oh, I finished with first class in this. But nobody needs that. what operates the world we have right now is capitalism. Capitalism. So if there's no demand for what you've got, and it could be a professor, it could be anything, that just be the rich wise man. You don't want to be the rich wise man. You want to be the wealthy wise man. Okay. So now, if you identify that you are on the rise, your industry that's on the rise, you want to develop mastery. So how do you go about develop? Now, in the traditional educational system means you have to go to school, you have to go for it, but I'm more suited for the IT industry. So you have to go back to school, study IT for IT, wherever it is, informatics, you could study computer science, you could study computer engineering, you could study computing. So that was the approach. But right now, with the camps, now you can start working on projects in your new field without having to go through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of a structured, rigorous academic environment. Of course, this is not for every profession, anyways. I mean, I won't expect you to aim to be a surgical, to be a medical doctor, right? By using, say, Udemy or something like that. No. So you have to look at the industry. But for most emerging industries, so that's why it's called emerging industry. The knowledge has not been structured, and you have the opportunity to get ahead by leveraging on what we call the micro learning environment, right? And there are lots of micro learning structured, providing knowledge, essential knowledge that you need in capsule format. So you have the likes of the Udemy, you have the Skillshare, we have a lot of them, right? And there are many schools right now who have kind of, let's say, franchise the knowledge to, let's say, Coursera, EDX, Learn, amongst others, which give you access wherever you are, whether in Nigeria, anywhere in Africa, globally, Europe or not, to access these Harvard-led discourses, right? Conversations, panel conversations, lectures, amongst the case studies, right? From comfort of your own. So take advantage of micro learning. Now, again, you see, let me trace back my step. First, identify if you are in an industry that is on the rise. If not, then you have to opt off because there won't be any benefit accrued to you by being a master. For instance, when we were growing up, there were typists. Being a typist was a profession. In fact, if you were a secretary, the image of a secretary is who has a type anyone with a typewriter. Perhaps might never have seen a typewriter ever before, right? The change comes in slowly. And before you know it, little change, little change, little change. And within a decade, it was as if the 1G, the typewriters, the analog TV, it's like they never existed. It felt like that was like 100 years ago. And the more you dive deeper into technology, the more you understand that these changes are not quote unquote miracles. They follow the geometric progression, right? So you have 1, 2, 3. Before you know it, right? Before you count like 5, 6, 7 steps, you're already getting to multiples. So you have to take that approach to the way you learn, right? To the way you observe things. You have to be understand the concepts, all right, of geometric progression, which means that if I had to throw you right now, perhaps a law graduate, I say, you know what, come and be a machine learning engineer. Wow, that's a totally new field, right? First day, it feels like no change is happening and exposing itself to the right improvements, incremental improvements. So that brings me to the next thing, which is the incremental improvement. Now, we started with you understanding your industry to check whether it's on the rise or on the decline. How do you go about that? There are a lot of industry reports, a lot of, again, you by yourself, go to the market. When I say go to the market, get to the industry, be a player in your own industry and see what is the demand like. Check the financial records of the major companies, right? The leaders in your industry. What does it look like? Are they regressing or progressing? And it's as that. Then if you are on the rise, that means if you're in an industry that is on the rise, then you have to commit to mastery. You have to commit to continuous learning. Now, how do you get about that? Submit yourself. I subscribe to micro learning platforms, Udemy, YouTube Learning, Masterclass. There's actually a platform called Masterclass, amongst many others, right? Future Learn, Coursera, EDX, right? Then understand the concept of Kaizen, law of incremental improvement. Just tell yourself, okay, how can I improve by 1% today? It's very simple. How can I improve by 1% today? Which means it could be just reading a chapter. It could be just applying what you read yesterday for just 1 minute, 2 minutes. The goal is to be consistent. By being consistent, you get yourself into the power law, get yourself into the geometric progression. And again, first day and visible results, but just keep at it. Because in 2 months, 3 months progress, level of knowledge you would have acquired by being consistent at learning new, acquiring new knowledge in a new field. All right. Okay, so now, having said that, I need to move on to the next thing. Next thing is that now beyond the technical skills, because if you are paying good attention, you would realize that AI is actually, let me use the word, disrupting most of the technical skills. With AI, you can conduct most basic data analysis to almost 98% accuracy, right? With artificial intelligence, people are even creating that's well researched, depending on how you're able to leverage these platforms. People are able to use artificial intelligence to create creative images and images, documentaries, amongst others, which means that the real skills in an era like this is not just the technical skills. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, your technical skills are critical. They are very important. If you're a great engineer with a terrible habit, you would be in the top 1% of your profession. But today, AI is now, we have a platform called Cursor. It's Cursor, it can generate the version 1 or version 0, as most people like to call it, as a prototype of most web apps. Technically has replaced most junior developers. And I'm trying to say this because so you can realize that the real skill right now is not just the technical skills, which actually is still important because we need scientists, we need engineers, we need inventors, we need innovators. But the real skill on which AI has struggled to disrupt is the human skills. That is skills that make us human. Skills like empathy, ability to empathize, critical thinking, ability to take information and evaluate it based on its merits. AI does not have the context of most knowledge being passed across. AI does not have what called cultural intelligence. In Yoruba, AI cannot tell you, okay, AI tell you, okay, this is wrong, this is right. But how do you go about articulating those things in a, let's say, in a Yoruba culture? Is different from, let's say, how you articulate that in a corporate setting. It's different from how you go about articulating that in, let's say, the Igbo culture. So AI doesn't have a solid understanding of the context and the nuances of culture, of interpersonal dynamics. So these things as not and hopefully cannot be disrupted. It's in demand for men and women of integrity, men and women who are great communicators, who are able to conceive ideas and articulate the ideas in a compelling manner. The world is in demand for men and women who place humanity at the heart of their creations. So you make bags, you make art, what do you do, right? You design code, you build web apps, you analyze data, you build machines. Beautiful. But beyond that, the world needs those who put humanity at the center of their creations, at the center of their service. Today, most people say the bane of the Nigerian corporate world is the ineptitude in the customer service. It means that when you have issue with, let's say, service, reaching out to the customers first, let's say calling any, I don't want to mention names, right? First be on the call for maybe like 5 minutes, you wait a minute, you've been transferred to the next customer rep. You do that for like 10 minutes, and even your head time that has been spent. You go to any corporate hall, you have to wait there for sometimes hours before you have been attended. So if you come into that space, right, and you're able to deliver a great service. So a great service is not just the physical benefits that people get, the practical benefits that people get from using your service, but the emotional benefits, the convenience, the care you go about the packaging of the service that you deliver. These would separate you from the pack. At work, the way you go about conducting yourself at work is excellence. So excellence has gone beyond technical excellence, has become human excellence, has become the ability to empathize, ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, ability to deliver joy in form of coding, in form of websites, in the form of whatever you do at work. That AI cannot disrupt. So we talked about critical thinking. Today, shall we go online? Most of us spend a lot of time on social media, on Twitter, Instagram. I mean, Twitter is called X right now, LinkedIn, amongst others. To be able to take this information and evaluate them based on their merits, to find the logical fallacies, the logical incoherences in these conversations, separates you from the masses. One, ability to empathize, right? To deliver joy, to deliver love in what you do, separates you. Happens, they say, oh, this has the branding, the trademark of Damilare. That is going to be what's going to separate you in a world that is changing. Okay, let me summarize again. So first, you look at it, is an industry that's on the rise or on decline. Okay, you commit to mastery. You subscribe to micro learning environments, which now the concept of you subscribing to micro learning environments is based on a concept of what called this design thinking. So you want to do something, you want to try something new. So you just jump into the unknown. You do like a test, a pilot project, just to be sure if this thing is a right fit for you. So you subscribe to micro learning environments. You commit to Kaizen, daily incremental improvement in learning, right? Then you put on your human skills. You empathize. You show care in the delivery of the service. You apply critical thinking. And very importantly, you apply creative thinking, and that separates you from others. Okay, I just want to check how many minutes I have left before I continue. Okay, all right. Can you confirm how many minutes I have left?
You have 10 minutes more.
Awesome, awesome. So let me share that, and let me just share that. What separates us from others is our ability to learn, because there's no difference from one person, right, from another person. What's in this era, we're not judged by our tribe. We're not judged by our religion in level of productivity, intelligent productivity. You could you could be a US citizen, even as a Nigerian. You're able to come up with groundbreaking innovations and ideas. You would be recognized by the Nobel laureate committee, right? Which it takes beyond the limitation that you would have as the citizen of a nation. It catapults you into a global environment. So which means that what separates a person from another person is not necessarily the common denominator we have been used to over the years, but the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn again. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn again. Now, in the process of learning, eventually you will discover that many of the things that you thought were sacrosanct, you thought like this is how the world is, perhaps because of your upbringing, perhaps because of your religion, perhaps because of your culture, perhaps because of the kind of school you went to. So when you come to that understanding in your process of learning, what do you do? Do you just shrug it off and say, you know what? That's how it was, that's how it is, and that's how it's going to be? No. What do? You unlearn. And I tell you, many people struggle to read. Many people struggle to attend classes. Many people pay for online courses and they don't even show up. They think learning is hard. Oh, I've got a bad news for those people. Learning is even simpler. You know what's harder? Unlearning. Unlearning is harder than learning because you're trying to tell your brain that what you've believed, what sometimes you've woven the fabric of the perspective of life, what you believe is how the reality is organized is wrong. You're telling yourself that that is wrong. You're telling yourself that perhaps your parents were wrong. You're telling yourself that perhaps your favorite primary school, secondary school, or university lecturer was wrong. You're telling yourself that your favorite author was wrong. Ooh, that's not easy, my friends. So unlearning is difficult. And again, I have good news. Growth to grow means what's new yesterday? To grow, to eventually grow, to say, okay, this year I've grown. It means that you now know something that is untrue, that you thought was true last year. That is what it means to grow. That's the meaning of growth. If you've not unlearned something that you knew with the viscerally, that means with the entire of your being, the entirety of your being, but if you have not unlearned something like that, you have not grown. So when you find environment, when I say environment, it doesn't have to be physical environment, it could be the intellectual environment, right? So when you find yourself in an environment where you have to unlearn something, where you have to, so oh my goodness, what I thought was good last day, it's not got true anymore. Then be joyful, be happy. Don't feel bad about it. It means we've come to that understanding of unlearning something, and that is an opportunity to grow. So we don't grow by acquiring more knowledge. We don't grow by acquiring more knowledge. We grow by unlearning habits, by unlearning how we speak, by unlearning how we conduct ourselves, by unlearning how we respond to things. That's how we grow. Then the last part of it is relearning. So when you unlearn things, what do? You relearn, right? So for instance, now let's bring that to the concept of a young professional, right? In a digital age. Cool. You went to school and perhaps you learned a programming language, perhaps you learned something that is not even tech related. And you get to the workspace, all right? You got to the workplace. And now you have to bring a new set of skills that you're not trained to deliver. You have to use tools, you have to use the remote softwares, you have to use project management software, you have to learn how to, study philosophy. No, you don't do that. You learn on the job, right? Then you have to learn so many things that you learned in school, which are no longer useful. I'm sorry to say, they're not longer, their knowledge of zero utility. You unlearn them very fast. Because when you don't unlearn them, you can't even pour new knowledge to yourself. Because those knowledge are going to be there like barricades, blocking you from learning new things. Then you relearn again, relearn new things. And sometimes relearning means learning again what you knew, what you thought you knew in a different way, in a way that is able to produce results. Let me repeat that again. Sometimes relearning means relearning what you thought you knew in a way that's able to produce effective results. See, lawyers, so for even lawyers, let's start with doctors. Doctors, nurses, or any medical professional who's been trained in Nigeria, when they move abroad, let's say they go to the UK or they go to the United States. So when you get there, they go through a series of examinations, certifications. The goal of the certifications and examinations is to help them relearn something new so that the knowledge is fit for the UK or the US or the Canada market. I don't be getting that. So which means that sometimes relearning means as a professional, even though you studied law in the school, you studied agriculture, studied something, it means that you have to relearn what you thought you knew by putting yourself in a difficult environment, by putting yourself in an environment that demands the best from you, by something to a new tutor, a new teacher, so that what you knew can be processed into something that's productive because the market rewards value. The market rewards things that it needs, not what you know. So in summary, closing, the young professional in this digital era who is going to thrive regardless of the challenges that his or environment may possess or may put out there to barricade, to stop, to limit, to challenge him or her is one who is committed to learning, unlearning, and relearning in an accelerated pace, which means that speed of light. It means that the same knowledge you are acquiring right now, be in this session, you're not the only one being in this session. The other people on this call, and perhaps this session is going to be distributed online, which means that there's no monopoly of access to knowledge anymore. In the past, attending certain schools means that you're already ahead of the pack. No. Now, most lectures have been distributed online, which you have to take the knowledge, run with the knowledge, apply the knowledge, and get results of the knowledge. So let me just add this bonus before I end my session. Now, like I said, is enough, really. Just present your certificate and you get a job. Now, the proof of concepts now is the replacement for certificates. It's a replacement for your degrees. It's a replacement for any paper credibility that would have sufficed a decade ago, 2 decades ago. So what does that mean? It means that in whatever industry, whatever expertise area you want to major in, how can you demonstrate an object? How can you produce something of evidence of value? Which means that what projects can you develop in that area? You're going to be a lawyer, then go to court, just that, and produce something that anyone could see and say, oh, this is a lawyer, not by showing us your certificate. Right? You're going to be an IT professional, you're going to be an IT professional as a broad industry, right? You're going to be a data analyst. Then by all means, analyze data. Show us the process behind the scene. Then show us the analysis of your data. Put it online. Right? People want to see the evidence of the efficacy of the knowledge you've got. That the knowledge you've got is productive, right? It can lead to results. If you are a designer, whether you're a fashion designer, then make the clothes. Don't just be a fashion developer in your head. Build web apps, then show it to the world. So whatever you've got, put it in a format that can be shown to the world. And by all means, get the skills of an excellent communicator, the ability to persuade, ability to influence, ability to articulate your ideas. So that'll be all. Thank you very much. And over to you, the moderator. I'd like to take your questions.
Wow, that was so nice. Thank you so much, sir. I learned a lot of things. Actually, I learned, unlearned. I've learned a lot of things. So I'm going to mention some things that stood out for me while you were presenting. So you mentioned something like to grow is to unlearn. That's very, very powerful. If you want to say that, oh, I've grown, that means you have actually relearned some things. That means the way you used to do things before, you have changed that. Then you can say, oh, I've grown. So to grow basically is to unlearn. And after unlearning, you have to relearn. So to unlearn is not enough. You have to relearn. If you want, that means if you are unlearning, you are taking away some things that are not necessary, that are not important, and you want to learn new things that you think are now important and necessary. So I also mentioned something like presenting your certificate isn't enough. How can you produce something of evidence and value? Whatever you've got, build it into format. And you mentioned something like, oh, if you're into okay, maybe if you are doing something that you can just build an app to showcase to help those people in that particular field. So presenting your certificate is not enough. And you said excellence is beyond technical skill, is is become beyond technical skill rather, sorry. You have to be excellent too in human skills like communication skills, like interpersonal relationship, like empathy, like critical thinking. So it's not just about being a tech bro or a tech sis. You have to have these important human skills. And the fact that social media now, we are using social media. Most of us are always on social media, if not 24/7, close to 24/7. And because of that, we don't really relate with people. There is no communication. You're not building. You just want to stay on your phone 24/7. And I think that can be detrimental too. So you have to learn how to relate with people. It's not just about being a tech bro or tech sis. It's actually very important, but human skills are very important too because that is what AI cannot do. You mentioned that most of the technical skills that we have now, AI can do that, but the human aspect, AI can never replace that. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. God bless you, sir. I really enjoyed your session.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so what I just have to say is that keep learning, never stop learning is very important. And and again, I'd like to add something. So if you're on the call, let's just hear something from you. So one thing I'd like to share is that perhaps, even though we talk about a lot about artificial intelligence, the most important skill is your ability to communicate. So when you find yourself, and the easiest way for you to go about it, especially if you're not joining any professional organization, let's say like Rotary, Toastmasters, and many others, is to, when you find yourself in any meeting, try as much as possible to participate. So I'm not saying about because this call, because maybe I'm not sure, but let's say you go for seminars, you go for workshops, you go for lectures. I like to do that a lot. Now, what you have to do by all means, raise up your hand and participate, ask questions, get yourself involved. You know why? Because the more you do that, the more you eliminate the fear of public speaking, of communication in a high impact environment. So it's very important. The ability to communicate is very, very important. And you have to do that. And that AI isn't going to do that for you. AI can generate a video, AI can write a content, but you have to speak. You have to speak. And so that's very important. So ability to do that. And but when you keep doing that, when you start doing that, you begin to realize that there are several layers to what makes a great communicator.
Some of us, like me now, the idea of digital skills sounds very boring. Like, no, I can't do this. When you hear about digital skills, acquiring digital skills, you feel like, oh, this will be boring. This will be theoretical. Like, this will be something like mathematics. No, I'm not in. I'm not ready for that. The idea of data analysis, oh, this is boring. I don't want to do it. So, to some of us, the idea of digital skills is very boring. Very, very boring. I'm talking from experience. Like, for me, when I hear digital skills, when I hear data analysis, I'm like, oh no, I don't know mathematics. I don't even know what it is. Just like I don't want to do it. So how can I make it interesting for me? Like, how can I make it interesting and less boring? Not only data analysis, I'm talking about digital skills in general. Like, how can I make it less boring? How can I make it interesting for me so that I'll be able to at least acquire some digital skills because I know that we're in digital age. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And years ago, for for your job, you have computer skills. So computer skills, what they mean by computer skills, your ability to use Microsoft Word and at times maybe CorelDRAW, all those things. Now, if you are applying for a job and you say, I have computer skills, by extension referring to Microsoft Word, be like, okay, who cares? Like that is so fundamental right now, so essential that if that's like a standard skill for you, then when you start judging every other criteria, every other credentials that you've got. So now I give that analogy to show that in the next 5 years, AI skills, data analysis skills, and amongst others, even ability to make little designs and all would be so essential, so fundamental, so let me put this way, everyday skills. That's not having and knowing how to use the skills would be a disadvantage, not necessarily even an advantage anymore. Okay, so having said that, now for you to make a new skill fun, there's something called gamification, right? This is what you just said. Gamification is how, so for instance, Communicating with people online on social media is not fun, really, at the very essence of it. It's like you being outside and talking to everybody. And you think it's fun, it's energy draining, except you're a typical, a hardcore extrovert. You won't find that fun. But the social media giants, they applied all kinds of psychological frameworks to make chatting with people, reading people's posts and comments entertaining and addictive. So the same social psychology principles and all can be applied to how you go about learning new things. So one way you can look at it is first is pair new knowledge with something, new learning rather, with something that you're already doing, that you enjoy doing. So for instance, let's say you love to draw. Okay. Then pair drawing with learning data analysis. So which means that okay, how can I make data analysis fun for me by drawing it out? You see, that's process, that question sounds crazy, let's put it that way. But by even thinking about it that way, you're asking yourself, how can I transfer the same dopamine release I get from drawing to data analysis? And you'll be surprised that you come up with a customer specific to something new you're trying to learn. That's one. Second thing you need to do is break down that big thing. Data analysis is big, 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 big. Break into something small. So for instance, being this session, there's a lot of data right now. The first speaker spoke for how many minutes? Second speaker spoke for how many minutes? By combining that data, okay, analyzing the effectiveness, right? Okay, was it more engaging because the speaker spoke for 30 minutes? Or was it more engaging because the speaker spoke for 50 minutes? You're already applying data analysis principles. That's basically what data analysis is all about, analyzing data. But because we deal with massive data, we now begin to use tools like Microsoft Excel, Google spreadsheet amongst others. Power BI, Microsoft Power BI. So it starts something small, breaking down something small, right? And start learning that way. And third thing to do when it comes to making learning fun is to turn it to a project. Okay, we have a session today or this night. How can I apply? How can I make it a data analysis project? It's simple. So for you to analyze data, I think there are three steps involved. First is identify the data. So there are a lot of data points. For instance, what time do we start? What time did we close? How many people joined at the beginning? How many people were there at the hour, half hour mark? How many people were there at the hour mark? How many people were there at the end of the session? Right? What was the engagement like? Was there issue with the internet? That's data already, right? Then next step is arranging the data, right? You arrange the data based on order of relevance. You remove data that is not necessary for your analysis. Then the third step is analyzing data. So you analyze data, okay. When you analyze data, you have a goal in mind, maybe for the next program, right? Next edition of this event. You want to take data from the session because the whole point of analyzing data is to improve what you're working on. Because keep analyzing data and there's no improvement at the end of the game, then what's the point? So do you take data from what you're currently doing? That's okay. How can you take this information to enhance the next program? So that's all about. So I gave you three examples. First is peer learning with what's already for you. So we can spend the entire day reading novels. Maybe struggle with that. So you can spend the entire day reading novels. Then how can you pair reading novel with learning machine learning? So it means that, okay, you know what, every 5 minutes, when I'm having a break from reading my novel, I'm going to study this introductory to machine learning book. Or you know what, I'm learning this machine learning book today. I'm studying this machine learning book today, but I'm going to be having 30 minutes break every 2 hours to read this beautiful novel that I love. So just pair new learning with what's already fun for you. Second thing is to break down the big field of study and start with a micro unit that you can implement within 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or in a day. And third is turn it into a fun project that you can start with. So that's